Gentlemen, my name is Tyler Allen. I am a business person in this community, and as you perhaps walked in today, you could see our work on the buildings around the giant murals of famous Louisvillians. That's a 15-year-old digital printing company that I founded with a partner. Since then, I've been involved in many places in the civic sphere in the city of Louisville, and most recently, I co-founded what has become one of the largest grassroots movements in the state of Kentucky. So I've had experience in business and civic organizations and in grassroots movements. Many of you in this room actually have sat with me over the past 5 years with maps about a conversation about the future of this city. Much of it focused on downtown and the possibilities. It is time for this community to take the next step. The next mayor needs to understand that the downtown part of this community, while being everyone's neighborhood, it is a crossroads where people come together and through. It is a destination. It is a fabric. It is a store. It is a home. It must be all of those things. As we work and make investments to build the future of the city, we'll understand it's not just one structure. It's the street. It's the people that make up the downtown.
Thank you very much.
I believe that during the merger campaign, we were fairly clear about the subject going into this, that where an urban service district boundary was, there would be higher taxes and therefore a higher level of service. I think over time, people perhaps expected that to be different in the future in the county, and over time it can be different, but in order to extend those services beyond the urban services district, one has to extend the same taxing rate into those areas. Same thing applies to our 6-class cities. If they at some point want city services, we can invite them into the process and once again be governed by the same tax rate. Really, one has to do that because if one begins to extend services where they are not paid for, then the services that we've grown to expect in the places where we have been paying for will suffer, and that clearly is not fair to folks who argue. Well, this issue is incredibly important for downtown Louisville because 4th Street Live is great as an initial investment as it was for our city. It opened up 4th Street, which was a big part of the plan to recreate and reconnect the fabric of downtown. I really thought that very quickly after that we would strike while iron was hot. And if you were to walk up 4th Street, as I did the day that 4th Street Live opened, and think to myself, if this is dark 3 years from now, what's that going to mean with growth and development around here? And so we really do need, the next mayor needs to focus very strongly on building the environment in which small businesses can thrive. That has everything to do with incenting the developers who develop downtown, because it takes the developers to acquire the buildings, and the local developers are the ones who will take the risks with the local retail and other business opportunities. And we also have to start focusing strongly on connectivity downtown with our transit infrastructure. Build the Easton Bridge now immediately. It should have been built years ago. And as a matter of fact, the East End Bridge is a huge opportunity for downtown Louisville. Because if we begin, and everyone in this community needs to understand what's at stake here, there is a 23-lane wide spaghetti junction on the table, $2 billion, 40% of the bridge's project cost, an albatross that makes it so we can't get anything done. And when we next turn to have to toll everybody to cross every bridge we have, just so we can get the privilege of crossing the East End Bridge. So I would say, build the East End Bridge now, and defend downtown, and build downtown out. And a 23-lane interchange that will become a bottleneck south on 65 through Hospital Curve, it will cause a bottleneck out through Cherokee Park and cause pressures to tear out the Cockerville tunnels. Downtown cannot sustain 15 years of construction for something that is not beneficial to the crown jewel of this community, our wonderful, resurgent, urban waterfront of downtown.
All right.
I do not support tolling our existing bridges. Transparency, how are we going to get transparency when we have turned the decision for this over to an unelected commission? I spent a great deal of time in Frankfurt over the past several years, including last summer during the special session, trying to ensure that our Metro Council, our local government, finally had a say on this. Because the place to ensure transparency, ladies and gentlemen, is in the hands of your elected officials so that you can then hold someone accountable for the decision that is made. And a tolling authority is no way to have that happen. So I do not, in fact, support tolling the existing bridges. The purpose and need of this project was to enhance cross-river mobility when we started it years ago. The state has a study that indicates that one bridge does almost as well in enhancing cross-river mobility as two bridges, that bridge being, the one bridge being the East End Bridge. And we do not need to put an onerous tax it is, on our community to take $4 billion plus financing out of this community at a critical time. We need to do what we needed to have done from the very beginning, and we haven't done it thus far simply because very powerful people in this community said that we were not going to have an East End Bridge.
Mayoral.
Clearly, there are specialized functions that police in our downtown are going to need with regard to big events and traffic and all sorts of stuff. But with regard to the question of making people feel safe, I do not believe this is a policing issue. In the reclaiming or the growth and redevelopment of a city, it is an issue of people on the streets. It is an issue of connected development, block after block. You can't have a block here and a block here with 4 dark blocks in between and expect people to feel like they're in a city and feel like they're safe. I actually, when I was a school teacher in New Orleans, I lived in the French Quarter. And you can see this most acutely there, is you could be on Bourbon Street or Royal Street with all sorts of activity, benign strangers, people around doing their thing. In that atmosphere, crime simply is not the issue. Go a block and a half away where there isn't activity. And so it's not people who are hired and trained to watch folks, it's all of us together. It's activity and vibrancy and activity, and that's what we're working towards in our downtown. The job of our government is to build the infrastructure in which private business, private citizens go about their lives and do their work. And we must, as a city, start taking a long-term view towards this question of job creation. Clearly, we need to make immediate changes in how accessible we are to business, how open we are, how we incent business, how easy the regulatory environment is. But I believe that we need to be talking about big ideas with regard to making this a livable city, making this a sustainable city, things that start to put Louisville on the map. We need, kind of much like trying to distinguish ourselves up here in front of you as candidates, any one of us, we as a city absolutely have to start distinguishing ourselves and doing big things that make us come out of the fold, and creating momentum with regard to our efforts in education and our educational institutions here, because quite frankly, that is one of the things that really stymies us in the competition for new employers in this community. And it's the momentum and the idea that that's what we value as a community.
Mayoral.
Well, I would say that I am similar to him in, I do believe he has a deep love of the city. Like Dave Armstrong, who was mayor before and in between Jerry, and I think that's incredibly important for moving the city forward and bringing all the citizens on and making everybody feel like we have something to be excited about in Louisville and we've got something special. But where I am very different is I do not believe that it is a problem to ask difficult questions, to assess the circumstances of where you are, okay, out of fear that that will show that you are not measuring up. Because in order to meet a goal, a target, to move us forward, we must look at ourselves honestly, and we must make some goals for the community and move us towards that. Because in that, I believe citizens who love their city and are excited about the future can handle the truth and will use that information to build the best city going